After a really tough stretch, the leadership at UnitedHealth Group had to face Wall Street analysts. And let's just say the questions were pointed. And what came out of that meeting wasn't just another quarterly report. Nope, it was a blueprint for a massive strategic reset. So let's get into it and figure out what this really means for the healthcare giant. All right, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at how that intense grilling from analysts really forced this whole new strategy out into the open. Then we'll dive into the big reset happening at Optum Health. Check out United Healthcare's kind of surprising new path to profit. See how they're betting big on an AI future. And finally, wrap it all up with the financial bottom line. So right off the bat, you need to understand this was not your typical sleepy earnings call. Oh no, investors came locked and loaded with tough questions. They wanted to know point blank why things had gone so far off track. The pressure was definitely on, and the exec team really had no choice but to lay their cards on the table, revealing a pretty dramatic new direction for the whole company. Really, it all boiled down to this one fundamental question. The company had been growing like crazy, just expanding everywhere, but the results just weren't there. Analysts wanted to cut through all the corporate speak and understand the real core issues. And the answers they got? Well, they started with the surprisingly honest admission about their massive healthcare services arm, Optum. Okay, so the first big bombshell was this major reset for Optum Health. I mean, this division was supposed to be the future, right? The engine of modern, efficient healthcare. But something had gone seriously wrong. So what's the new plan? It's all about a disciplined, back-to-basics return to its original mission. And here it is, the big admission from leadership. They basically said, yep, we messed up. In the rush to get bigger, Optum Health completely lost its way. All that rapid growth created this sprawling, unfocused beast that just wasn't delivering on the promise of value-based care anymore. That model where doctors get paid for keeping people healthy, not just for doing more procedures. And they got super specific, which was pretty telling. The CEO of Optum, Patrick Conway, he pointed to 3 huge failures. First, their network of doctors just got way too big and bloated. Second, their operations were a mess, totally inconsistent from one place to the next. And third, and this is a big one, they were taking on financial risk for patients and insurance products that just were not a good fit for their model, and it was costing them a lot. So the big question is, how do you fix a problem that big? Well, their COO, Kristen Nelson, she laid out a really clear 3-part strategy. And honestly, it's a total back-to-basics approach. They're going to recommit to their original clinical model, shrink their network to only include doctors who are really on board, and then be absolutely ruthless about only taking on risk for the right kinds of patients. And here's where the rubber meets the road. This reset isn't just talk, it means they're going to have to intentionally and painfully shrink the business. We're talking a full 10% drop in their value-based care members. Just think about that for a second. For a company that's been all about relentless growth, this is a massive, massive shift. It's a huge gamble on needing to get smaller now so they can get stronger later. And this quote from Conway, wow, it just perfectly sums up the tough medicine they're dishing out. It shows they're not messing around. They are actively cutting ties with doctors and clinics that don't fit into their new, super disciplined approach. The message is crystal clear. Get with the program or you're out. Okay, so that's Optum, but that's only half the story. Now let's switch over to the other side of the house, United Healthcare, the insurance business itself. Turns out it's facing its own set of challenges. And just like with Optum, the new game plan is a radical change from the old growth at all costs mindset. And the plan here is, well, it's not one size fits all. For their huge Medicare Advantage business, they're actually going to shrink their membership to get their profits back on track. For their Affordable Care Act plans, get this, they're jacking up rates by a jaw-dropping 25% or more. And for Medicaid, they're basically just bracing for impact, admitting that low state funding is going to keep hurting their bottom line. Just look at that number, 1 million members. That's how many people they're planning to drop from their Medicare Advantage plans. This is a massive retreat, and it just hammers home how serious they are about putting profits ahead of market share. A move like this is absolutely going to send ripples across the entire industry. So if they're pulling back in your core businesses, you have to ask, right? Where is future growth going to come from? Well, according to leadership, the answer is technology. They are making a huge bet that AI and their Optum Insight division are going to be the new engines for the entire company. This quote from their tech chief, Sandeep Dadlani, it really captures the sheer scale of their ambition here. They're not just talking about using AI to make a few things better. No, they see it as a way to fundamentally simplify the entire, ridiculously complex healthcare system. And they're positioning Optum Insight to be the company that leads that charge. And to prove this isn't just a bunch of corporate buzzwords, they're already rolling out real, actual products. Optum Real wants to streamline payments in real time. Integrity One uses AI to automate medical coding, which is a huge headache for everyone. And Crimson AI helps hospitals analyze and cut down on surgical costs. Their bet is that solving these massive administrative problems is the key to unlocking the next wave of profit. Okay, so all these big changes, shrinking membership, cutting provider networks, pouring money into new tech, it all comes with a hefty price tag. So let's take a look at how this whole reset is actually hitting the company's wallet and what their road to recovery looks like. And they are definitely putting their money where their mouth is. In just one quarter, they pumped an extra $450 million into technology and into their own employees, probably to keep morale up during this crazy transition. This is not a cheap pivot. It's a massive strategic reinvestment in what they believe is the future of the company. And leadership is being really upfront that this is not going to be a quick fix. They've laid out a whole multi-year timeline. 2025, that's going to be the painful transition year. They expect to return to growth in 2026, but it'll be held back by all these big investments. The real payoff they're hoping will finally arrive in 2027 and beyond. So, to wrap it all up, that grilling from analysts basically blew the doors off a whole new strategy. UnitedHealth is shrinking to grow, getting back to basics at Optum, making a gigantic bet on AI and telling everyone, hey, be patient, because this is a long-term turnaround.
And that leaves us with the billion-dollar question, doesn't it? They've identified the problems, and they've laid out a disciplined, if very painful plan. But trying to execute a turnaround of this size in the wild world of American healthcare is a monumental challenge. So, is this the start of a huge comeback story? Or is it a sign that the challenges are actually just beginning? I guess only time will tell.